truth and its emotional response. The wisdom to work that out, the two are feminine elements. Truth and its emotional response, I think, is one thing. But it could be three separate feminine elements of birthing quality of new knowledge in self, concerning self, of the emotional response system that explains self to self. So, in that, when at birth, before the conversion of spiritual self into the second wisdom, there are three separate beings. Okay, so truth and logic is the omnipresent God in logic and truth in influencing us. His Son's ability to reach that light is given to us the same. Intellectual wisdom to reach that light and create as a God does. And then who, self, has its own masculine and feminine elements of all of those things, because they're there giving them to us, because they decided to, because they love us, to see who will and who won't adapt back to their own spiritual lives. Anyway, so there, what's that? 2, 4, 6. So that's 6, right? But then the second wisdom comes in, who also has a masculine and feminine element. So that makes it not 8. It remains, the second wisdom takes its place behind the first two, who must, because of their commitment to provide us truth, logic, and intellectual wisdom as influences, must produce what the truth is. But this second wisdom comes in and distorts everything, first lowering the self-worth, as I've been explaining, but then introduces the mistress wisdoms. But before that happens, here you are now with the 666 thing, and the number that Jesus liked, which was number 7. So, if the self isn't educated and we grow up messed up because of that and confused and not knowing what's real anymore, because of that second wisdom infection of the first, so you now have the double influence, masculine and feminine, inside the three influences: truth and logic, intellect and wisdom, and the dark feminine of the second wisdom, and its masculine element that we know as the ego, speaking in complete opposite of what the truth and goodness is. Anyway, so now, if we leave that without following through the direction of the human algorithm of the first wisdom, which is following through in it with an intent for the goodness that is birthed in you, the knowledge of, which starts with the inner self work of self-expression, working that out, and then acting through what is known goodness. So you're not acting in the moment. It's like getting drunk. You don't drink and then, you don't take the information and then act immediately, because you kind of get off on that, on the inspiration or the fear or whatever. So you got to stabilize the emotional response. And when you do so, you take it to the number 7. That's your human will, taking all your spiritual elements and deciding, yes, I'm going to be good instead of what the mistress wisdom is describing. See? But she can only exist if justification for the rape of truth happens. And then the pedophilia comes in, to the cunning deception of, yes, all this happens. The cunning deception, just the pedophilic description of what I told you, comes in and distorts everything and hurts you and separates and divides you. Like, which one do I listen to internally now? Do I listen to the truth and its goodness, or do I listen to a lie and its safety? Spiritual death is in the middle. Spiritual life is in the middle. It's choice, human will. And now your human will is taking it to number 7 instead of letting all that shit stay inside you. That's the 666. You see? The 666 is that. 666 is allowing a spiritual pedophile in with your children being the knowledge of yourself first, and then the knowledge of the outside, which is the environment, which contains a lot of people with the same spiritual elements inside you, just as confused. So what do? We teach those who want and get paid that way in our hearts. And create a lot of income to help people. I don't know what your plan is, but this is mine. And those are everything that's inside me, and hopefully it's going to be inside you one day with your own intent making from your clarity now, instead of what's left over. You want to see what's left over inside your heart? Go look at a 7-8-year-old who's just gotten out of the grips of a physical pedophile. That's what you look like inside your heart. Not that is a bad thing, but to let you know, right? What's happening for you. You're just confused for different reasons. It's not sexual. But it's you that it's fucking with, though. Your self-worth level. The end result of the second wisdom is to lower it just enough to get you to perform its will from your fearing. So it injects its own fearing for something for you to be afraid of, and then through the ego's voice, you think you're telling yourself, you're not. It's the influence of the ego's voice saying, if you don't do it, then you're not going to get your need met. And because we're still operating from the distortion of early childhood emotional programming, we're operating from the same voice. Never learning, growing, and evolving anymore, but we're still stuck at 6 years old emotionally. Now's the time to reach number 7. To hit the number 7, I think, for everybody. My first thought was the inspiration of the freedom. It's just that beautiful. And take it from me, I used to be a hardcore back alley junkie. It took me from that to feeling beauty in life. Like, what can do that? Nothing. The people who say they are born in Jesus, it's all bullshit. They're bullshitting themselves because they believe the liars who lied to them. But the liars usually are ones who've been lied to. So I don't know. Ignore their fucking shit. Just look at yourself. There's only one confession listener, and that's your silence. Working that out, you need help with that. Everybody does, working it out. But do you take your truth to God, nobody else, unless you super trust them. That has nothing to do with memory at all, in which we're to take that emotional knowledge, emotional information in the moment, to then learn self and grow a little bit each time we experience something, but that's not what happens. We take the moment, the emotional moment, think back into the past, to then collect the necessary knowledge that we think we need in the moment. And if that's a fear, if it's rooted in fear and you're in self-protection behavior, that means you're searching for self-protection knowledge and not self-expression. When a person works to express themselves, find clarity as the result of that emotional information, which gets translated twice, first internally before speaking, and then once it's spoken in self-expression, you then think again of what you just heard yourself say. So it's not just a one-time event. It interacts with your spiritual elements, born in the oneness, but separated after 6 years old.